What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. So today I'm going to be talking about how zoomed optics affect the recoil properties of a weapon and kind of getting actual measurements for all the different optics. So on the website, it's only shown the VLK and the Solo Zero MVG as showing recoil reduction properties. That is just because I've been super busy for pretty much ever since I started the website. So I just haven't had time to get back there and test the optics. But I always suspected that it wasn't just the VLK and Solo Zero MVG that had this effect of the reducing of recoil and reducing of horizontal bounce. So I went through and I tested all the optics using maximum aiming stability growl. So that means I had tack laser, tactical foregrip, the aiming stability stock, granulated grip tape, and then the optic would be the fifth attachment there. So I use the growl for this because the growl has very consistent recoil, so it actually pretty much always ends in the same spot or very close. There's very little variance in the total height of the growl recoil. It has very, very consistent recoil compared to some of the other weapons. So that's why I chose it. And what I did was I fired 3 patterns with each attachment combination. So on the left you have the base growl with full aiming stability, just so it has no sway throughout the pattern. The middle has full aiming stability in commando, which is what people usually put on their guns to reduce the horizontal bounce. And you can see, just comparing the base growl to the commando growl, there's pretty drastically reduced horizontal bounce in the commando. And then I put the VLK on here because the VLK is the one that everybody already knows has these properties. So I wanted to put that on the main screen just so you can see what that looks like compared to a commando. So there's no commando foregrip on this VLK, and it still really helped with the stability a bunch. So these are the 3 things we're going to be comparing to throughout this video. So yeah, so let's jump into it. I covered, like I said, all the optics, so we'll see all of them here. So the first optic that we're going to talk about is going to be the Corp Holo, Corp Combat Holo Sight. I'm going to talk about all 3 of the holos, so the AP5X or APX5 and the PBX and the Corp Combat. So compared to the base growl, to me it looks like it doesn't really do anything. So this is the Corp Holo on the right. It kind of looks like it might help with stability just a tiny bit, but I actually measured the average pixel height of all 3 of these and found that the Corp Holo didn't really reduce recoil magnitude at all. And horizontal bounce is not something that I've had a metric for in the past. So in the last video I showed you how I did that curve fit stuff and actually kind of got a real metric for the horizontal bounce. But I haven't applied that to everything yet, and I can't do it manually for every single one of these because that would take weeks and weeks to do. So for now I'm just going to eyeball it, but in the future I might actually have a metric for this. And to me this really doesn't look like it's much more stable, if any, than the base growl. If it is, it's a tiny bit, and it's not nearly as much as a commando foregrip, so I'm just saying it doesn't do anything. So let's go on to the APX5. So the APX5 is the same deal. It really doesn't look like it does anything to me compared to the base growl. No recoil magnitude reduction, no horizontal bounce reduction. And I've suspected all the way since my video a long time ago where I had the clickbait title that said VLK actually increases recoil. I'm going to link that so you guys can watch it if you didn't see it. But that video talks about how with a zoomed optic you have to actually move your mouse more and move it faster to counter that recoil because your sensitivity is effectively reduced when you're zoomed in. So I suspected that the reason these higher zoom optics help with horizontal bounce and with vertical recoil is because you technically have more recoil when you're zoomed in just because of what recoil actually means. Like, you actually have to correct for recoil. That's what makes recoil a difficult thing to deal with, is because you have to correct for it, not just that the spread pattern's a certain height. So even though the VLK reduces the recoil by 7% or whatever, I have 6.5%, I guess that's the commando, but even though it reduces the recoil on the wall, like the spread pattern on the wall, it doesn't actually reduce the amount you have to correct for the recoil when compared to like a red dot sight. That's something else I should mention. I tested red dot sights, they didn't do anything either. Red dot sights don't have any effect on recoil. Alright, back onto the PBX Holo. So PBX looks like it might do a little bit for horizontal stabilization, but there was no vertical or no recoil control effect at all. And again, if it has a horizontal stabilization, it's pretty minimal. I mean, it's not obvious. You'll see some of these later on are very, very obvious. But yeah, the PBX doesn't really do anything. So Scout Combat's 3.25x. So you can see on this very clearly does the same thing as the VLK. So I measured an 11.5% recoil magnitude reduction. It's a small sample size, so plus or minus 2% probably on these numbers is reasonable. Well, plus or minus 1% probably, because the Grau has really consistent recoil. Like, these are all super consistent, but it really tightens up the horizontal bounce. I mean, the Scout Combat looks as good as the Commando does to me, if not better. So I'm just basically eyeballing the horizontal bounce. It's not a real 20% reduction. I'm just comparing it to the Commando and basing the horizontal reduction on that. Because like I said, I don't have an actual metric for horizontal bounce, but yeah, so this does as much as the Commando, or a little more even. On to the VLK. VLK again looks just like the Scout Combat. It's a 3x sight. It actually helps. It looks like a little bit more to me again than the Commando, so that's why I gave it a minus 20% horizontal bounce. So it reduces vertical, or not vertical, it reduces recoil, or helps with recoil control, and reduces that horizontal bounce a bunch. So let's jump over to the Cronin 3.5x. Again, Cronin does the same thing as the VLK and the Scout Combat, reduces it by about 11.5%. These were all super consistent. Like, it's not like I rigged this to come out this way. Like, these measurements were all literally the same when I measured the pixels. So that makes me confident that they all have the same effect. Horizontal bounce on this one didn't look quite as good as the VLK. So if I pop back to the VLK, look how tight those lines are going up the path. Then if I jump to the Cronin, it doesn't look like it helps with the horizontal quite as much to me. Just kind of toggle back and forth here a little bit so you can compare the two. But yeah, so I gave it 10%. It looks like it helps less than the Commando to me. So I do think that's a little bit different on the Cronin. Next up is the hybrid sights. So this is the integral hybrid. So interesting note with hybrid sights, I tested this. You do not get any recoil effect. You don't get any recoil control effect when you're in the red dot mode of the optic, but you do get most of the stability, or most of the stabilization. So your pattern will still be tighter left to right, but you don't get any of the vertical recoil control when you're in red dot mode, but it does still help you with the stabilization. So this one to me looked like it helped a little bit more than the Commando foregrip, but a little bit less than like the VLK. So I gave it 17.5%. Again, those are just arbitrary numbers, but it's just very clear that they're all helping significantly. So that's the big takeaway from this, is it's not just the VLK. And I've known this for a long time. I just haven't had time to do it. I haven't had time to make a video on it or put it on the site, but I've got all the numbers now, so I'll be putting these on the website pretty soon. There's some more interesting stuff coming too. So the next one is the canted hybrid. The canted hybrid is like a crazy amount of reduction. So this looks like it helps significantly more than Commando foregrip to me. I mean, look how tight this line is. All three of these, repeatable over and over, super tight line. It also had the strongest recoil magnitude reduction, so that's like a recoil control factor. But yeah, so I think canted hybrid is probably, it has a high ADS penalty, but it also appears to have some really, really good effects. So I was trying this out tonight when I played, and everybody was asking me, why are you using the canted hybrid? And I was like, just wait for tomorrow. I'll put a video out. And yeah, this is why, because it has the best bounce reduction, horizontal bounce, and the best recoil reduction. Next up was the Sol Zero. So this one, just like I had a long time ago on the site, it does help with recoil magnitude a little bit more than the VLK. And it also helps with the horizontal bounce. It looks about like the Commando foregrip to me in horizontal bounce, so I gave it that 15% value. Then the Merc Thermal. So the Merc Thermal, again, helps just like the other zoomed optics do. And like I said, I think that's just because zooming actually effectively increases your recoil. So to make zoomed optics more usable, I think they do this just to try to balance it a little bit. But yeah, horizontal bounce. I mean, this looks a little bit less stable to me than the Commando as far as left to right bounce, but it's pretty close. So I gave it 10% bounce reduction, and then the measured recoil magnitude reduction was 11%. The Merc Thermal Hybrid. So this is the one that has the red dot sight on the side of the Merc Thermal. It looks like it helps a little bit more than just the Merc Thermal by itself. So it has a 14% recoil magnitude reduction, measured the pixels to get that. And then it looks like about the same as Commando, so I gave it that 15% horizontal bounce reduction as well. So sniper scope with the growl. This one was interesting. So it really looks like it actually hurts the horizontal bounce to me. Like these recoil patterns look out of control compared to, let me just pop back to the canted so you can see comparison of the canted and the sniper. So this is the canted, then back to the sniper. Canted, sniper. It's just the sniper scope is significantly worse horizontal bounce. And the base growl to me looks like it's a little more stable even than the sniper scope growl. So I don't know. I gave it actually a 10% increase, and it didn't help with recoil magnitude at all either when I measured the pixels. And then variable zoom is even worse. So variable zoom, this is the variable zoom now. I mean, you can't even, there's almost like not even a discernible like recoil pattern. Like they're just so different because there's so much balance and so much randomness to the recoil when you have the variable zoom on there. So that's why I gave it the plus 15%. And then the recoil magnitude was averaged out to be no help at all between the three recoil patterns. And again, this is a very small sample size. It's only 3 recoil patterns per attachment. But the overarching point of the video is that if you have a zoomed optic, it's probably helping you. The only two that's not true for are the sniper and the variable zoom, so you don't have to use the VLK. You can use whatever you want. Generally, the VLK has the best ADS times of all the zoomed optics, so I still think it's a great attachment. I just think you can use most of these, and that was the whole point of me trying to show the actual numbers in this video, and I'll get the data up on the site pretty soon. But yeah, that's a summary of all the zoomed optics. All right, quick summary here to wrap it up. So red dot sights, the 1X sights do not help at all, like the GI Mini Reflex and the Solo Zero Reflex sight, the Viper. All those sights don't do anything. It's just they're the same as iron sights. Corp Combat, all the other holographic sights that are 1.5X don't seem to do anything either. But if you're at 3X or above, it seems like any of those optics will help you. I wouldn't put too much weight in those actual percentages for horizontal bounce that I measured, because they're not quantifiable measurements. They're just me looking at 3 recoil plots and saying, yeah, that one looks like it helps more than a Commando foregrip. But I mean, that's pretty arbitrary. So the whole point is just to show you that these all help with recoil and they all help with horizontal bounce. So take these numbers for what you will. I don't think everyone needs to go run canted hybrid now. I would say give it a try. If it feels a lot better to you, then use it. But yeah, I just wanted to show you all that all these optics did this, and I had thought this was true for like literally months. I just hadn't taken the time or had the time to go back and test everything. But today I did. So hopefully this helps you guys out. Appreciate you all watching, all the support. I'm about to break 30,000 subs on YouTube, which is bananas, crazy, wild. Just can't believe it. So thank you so much for all the support. I'm hoping to keep doing this for years to come. So I will be seeing you all around in the next video, and I'm gonna keep updating the website, and we'll see what's coming next.